So today is April 13th, and I've been a bit under the weather lately. Not feeling so hot right now, but I'm ready to pop, and I'm ready to have this baby as soon as possible. I'm just a little bit drained. The big balance is having enough energy to do everything, be there for everyone that needs me, manage the employees, manage the needs of the business, manage my athletes, lesson plans, schedules, my life, my schedule, my routine, trying to take care of myself, my family, my kids, and my husband. So it's a lot. Sometimes something has to give. And I think just everything, being spread thin in all areas is just probably exhausting me the most. Honestly, when I'm finally at my maxed out capacity and I have no more energy when I go home, I just sit on the lazy boy chair and I just can't move. I honestly sometimes can't move the rest of the night when I get home because I'm pushing myself so hard. And nobody sees those times behind the scenes. Nobody sees those moments, but I literally can barely move at the end of the night when I get home. It's just par for the course, and it's just part of the pregnancy at the end phase before you go into labor. And I'm starting to feel that really come on soon. And I'm ready for it. I'm ready for it. And here we go. Eyes up, leg up. All right. Come on, strong round up, back handspring. Come on, stand it up. All right, okay. All right, you pulled it out. Okay, good job. All right, get your back tucks in a run out for endurance, okay? My dream game plan never seems to work out, but I always tell the doctor, I was like, I gotta be at regional, so I gotta really deliver this baby so I could be there. But in reality, she's like, well, there are hospitals in Chicago. If you wanna, grab your records, we can get you to a hospital. She's like, is that ideal? Probably no, but she's like, but I'll do whatever you want. And obviously, I talked to her today and had a follow-up and an ultrasound this morning, and I probably will have to stay behind and send my other coach with my 5 regional qualifiers, my level 9, 10 qualifiers, and which is really hard for me to stay back, but I got to do what's right, and I have everything here, and it would just be very stressful because sure enough, if I go, I almost guarantee I probably would go into labor there, and then I can't drive 5.5 hours and get back to the hospital in time. Plus, with baby number 3, it may happen a lot faster, my doctor said. So I just need to be here. And I also know that Mike would be really upset if he missed the birth. So if I'm in Chicago, that's not going to fly. So we're going to I play it by ear. Honestly, I'm playing it by ear every day. If it doesn't go that way, it's God's way. And I just say it's God's timing. And that's all I can do is just sit back and wait. But I'm going to try to induce it any way that I can by exercising, moving mats. But it's hard to bend over these days. So, I'm always joking about that. Squeeze, squeeze, squeeze. If you don't feel your hip flexors on the wall, they're not flattened out. A little tight. No angles, girls. Open shoulder line. No arching in the back. Open shoulder line. Squeeze, 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 squeeze. Control the midsection on the presses. So a lot of my training when it comes to physical preparation is very focused on endurance training, conditioning training, flexibility. Those 3 things are really important for the physical athlete for gymnastics, for the physical athlete to be whole, I would say. And those are just important things in the gym to focus on. So I try not to beat up the bodies too much, but I try to make sure that they're very well conditioned, physically conditioned, because the more they're conditioned, the easier the gymnastics comes at the higher levels. So I keep them conditioned constantly throughout the season. Obviously, there are high peaks, low peaks, and then dips that we kind of go up in a wave. And you have to know when to taper back before a meet. You have to know then when to peak it back up. And I can usually tell in their physical readiness. I can tell when I see them a little bit stronger, a little bit weaker, or a little bit where we might need to tone this up a little bit, focus on this area, and so I'll increase arm strength or leg strength. But there's things that you have to keep consistent throughout the season to maintain physical form and also maintain physical endurance and readiness for these routines and these longer seasons to be able to handle it. Because if they're not physically conditioned well enough, you'll start to see the decline towards the end of the season. They won't be able to handle it. They're going to fatigue. And And that's just something that's really important that I notice in my own athletes, and I get a pretty good pulse on it very quickly. And so a big part of my training is physical readiness. Get the chest up and eyes up when you land. Flat hips up top, there you go. Flat hips, squeeze your glutes. Head in on the dismount. Okay, try to open up the hips, don't pike on the layout, okay? Knees, knees. Keep the arms tight. Okay, all right, we can count it, but even more throw. Keep those arms tight in the double A. So my own spiritual practice was developed by myself. To be honest, I never had anyone really bring that into my training. I was just a very spiritual person because my mother was very spiritual, and prayer was a big part of my growing up in gymnastics, and prayers before competition, prayers before I went, put my head down on my pillow. It was part of my own routine as an athlete. And then now into adulthood, I have my own little patterns and routines as well of spirituality. But as far as the athletes go, I think they all have their own spirituality. Some of them maybe more than others. I don't dive into it too much with them. I let them kind of develop their own way and their own path. If they ever want to ask me, I'm always open for questions, and I'm willing to give them any advice that's appropriate. But I don't really push that. I mostly will talk about like the mental routines. So I call them visuals. I'll have them close their eyes, and part of the beam training, because beam is such a mental event, I'll have them sometimes close their eyes and do visuals as part of their assignments on top of the physical routines that they do, or just an arm set that they isolate the arms and just focus on those movements to enhance their performances. Now, the stronger their mental game, the easier gymnastics will come to when they can envision themselves being as perfect as they want to be on the balance beam, especially because beam is one that'll make or break you in competition. It's a nerve-wracking event, it's 4 inches wide. A lot of times when the nerves come out, they come out on balance beam. So I incorporate those visual preparations, or if they're nursing an injury, rather than doing the assignment on the actual apparatus, I'll have them go and do some visuals while they're nursing an injured, rip on their hand, or they're nursing their ankle, something that can allow them to do the visual set, the mental preparation, because that's just as valuable when you think about it. So those are things that I implement into our everyday practices, and I think they go a long way, and it obviously will reap dividends later on, and I think the athletes become stronger mentally when I incorporate those things into lesson planning. Okay. So girls, you know why we do visual preparation? It's because beam is the most mentally challenging event, right? So we practice the visuals so that you can get in your mental zone, and you can do this at any time, day or night, when it counts and when you have to do it. We have regionals coming up. You want to hit. Beam is always one of those events where you get a little bit of those butterflies and those nerves. So you got to learn how to control it. But to do that, you got to learn how to control your mind and the breathing. So practice that with these visuals. You have 2 visuals to do for your beam routine from start to finish. Salute each one like you're really mentally seeing yourself there at regionals, and you're visually seeing it happen in the best version of your routine possible. The mental game is something I think is an advantage with me, because I know my athletes' body language very well. I can tell. I always ask them if something is off. I can tell if something's hurting them. So I try to dive into their mindset real quick when I see something a little bit off their normal day-to-day routine. And one thing I know very well is the mental aspect of the sport. So I can help guide them and put them in the right mental place, whether it's at a competition and I see them panicking in warm-up, or right before a vault, or if they've crashed in a warm-up, I can kind of put them back to, okay, you need to go do a timer, you need to feel good again. Don't, let this shake you. Go in there, and I give them that vote of confidence, because sometimes their own confidence can be shaken from a bad warm-up. So I can place them in the right mental mindset right before they get up on a routine, and I tell them what to think about, rather than them having to think of maybe something negative in the back of their mind, or something might be creeping up. So I think I can kind of, that's one thing I like to do is give them those verbal cues before they go up. And those little reminders make a big difference because it allows them to focus on those things right before they head into their routine that they need to do at a meet or into their practice modes or their pressure sets that they're practicing in the gym. So those little reminders are important as long as they try to implement them, right? Sometimes they do, sometimes they forget, but it's my job to continue to remind them. Good job. That was much better the second time around. Mental game was very good, and you were able to come back and have a strong hit. Very good, okay? All right. Get your round-offs, girls, if you haven't done them yet, and your snap-down back tucks. 10 of each, okay? About 15 minutes, but, you know, I won't be upset if we rotate early. Could always get to bars early, okay? I've done all the planning and the preparation for my athletes to go to regionals. I feel like they're in a really great spot, and whether I'm there or not, I know that my presence will be there in spirit no matter what. Obviously, I want to be there, and that's my dream, to be there with them, but I also have to just make sure that I'm doing what's right for my health and baby's health as well. So if I have to send them off, they're in good hands. My other coach, Jo, she'll really take good care of them, and I trust her with them, and I know that they have good trust in her as well. So I feel very good about that backup plan if it needs to go into effect.